Hey guys, this is Rich from Pacific, and I'm back with another episode in my Sampire 101 video tutorial series on how to create a Sampire character in Ultima Online. And I'm going through the character creation, crafting new armor, and getting your skills from 0 all the way up to 100 or 120, wherever you need it to be. So this episode is about crafting your initial armor set and weapons. So before we get too deep into this topic, I just want to point out that armor and weapons are something that are going to change over your Sampire's career while you're playing in this game. You'll eventually find artifacts or good roof drops that are just really or legendary artifacts that will fit your build better, and hopefully you'll be swapping them out. But in this series, I'm going to be using all custom crafted and imbued armor and weapons. So I'm not going to rely on any super expensive talisman or pay to play scenario with the forged metal artifact. This is all stuff that you could craft on your own. I'll show you how to do it and how to kind of make sure that you're getting the right skills or the right points into the right properties when you're doing this process. So let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to start off with showing you the finished gear. So that way, after I review the stats and the properties that are on this starter Sampire suit, if you want to see how I crafted these items and some detail on how to imbue it, you can keep watching the video, or you can move on to the next in the series. So I just want to review what I've done on this set. I haven't used any, there is one item, so we'll start right off with the ring and the bracelet on this. So the ring and the bracelet are both items that I found in game. So they're not an artifact, they're actually greater magic items. But in this particular case, we started off with a Dex 10 item that had stamina increase and a little bit of swing speed increase. And then I added the hit chance and damage increase. Same with this ring, it actually had nothing special, but it did start out with max imbues on damage increase, hit chance, so it saved me a little bit of time, and I'll show that in the rest of the video. Just want to point out the rest of this is crafted from scratch. So we have 3 pieces of metal, of plate mail. So we have the helm, the arms, and the chest. So show those here. Helm, arms, and chest. We wanted plate mail because it gives the best defense against stamina loss. It also gives us a little bit of extra lower mana cost, and that's why we're getting actually 43 as opposed to 40. Now you can get up to 55 with a different setup, but that's not what we're going to do here. Now we're also using 3 other pieces of Woodland armor. So we've got the Gorget, which has hit chance increase, the leggings, which has hit chance increase, and the gauntlets, which have 10% damage increase. So this allows us to, between the rings, this one piece of woodland on the gauntlets, the damage increase, and the weapon that I'm holding, that'll give us 100% damage increase, which is where we want to be all the time. Now, real quick on the weapons I'm using, they're GM crafted, so I've got a Radiant Scimitar that has hit lightning and hit lower defense, plus of course mana leech and stamina leech, and has 40% damage increase because it's a GM weapon. The axe I'll be using later in the video after I reach 90 skill is similar, except it doesn't have hit lower defense, but it has swing speed increase instead. So the rest of these I'm getting extra, I'm getting a little bit of defense. We get 13%. We have 40% hit chance increase. And we're going to have 45 as soon as we can enable the swordsmanship mastery. A total of 35 swing speed increase when I'm using the axe, and of course we always said 43 mana lower mana cost. We're getting an additional 42 mana, 45 stamina, 8 hit points, 4 hit intelligence, and 18 dexterity. And of course we're all physical damage. So let's swap into this and see how it affects our stats. So if you remember, we left off this character, we just finished our magic abilities. So before we get into combat, we want to make sure that we set our dexterity to go up and our intelligence to go down. So the end result will actually be the opposite of this. We will have 10 locked intelligence plus whatever bonus we get on our gear. So there'll be 14. And then the rest will be in dexterity. Now I may lower strength a little bit down to 105, but you do see that plate mail is pretty heavy. It has a strength requirement of 95, and I believe, yeah, 90 on the Woodland leggings. So we can't let this go too low, but we're going to try to get as many points as we can in dexterity. But even so, even right now with the low dexterity that I have 93 stamina, and that's because of all the items. Eventually, we're shooting for 180 stamina at least, and as much mana as we can squeeze, and that should probably be between 60 and 80. All right, so that's the gear that we're going to be using on the next segment, which will be into combat training. Hopefully this was helpful, and remember to like or subscribe if you like these. I'll continue on, and I'll continue to make this character and show you how I train it. The rest of this video will be about crafting these items, so thank you very much. Okay, so when we're crafting our metal pieces to this suit, one of the things we're going to do is, of course, we're going to be using Valorite because it has the largest amount of points that are distributed by default into a GM piece of armor. So we'll use the few pieces of metal armor that we're going to craft for this. We'll be using Valorite. And it's important to point out that you don't want to just take the first piece that you make. So what I like to do is, so I'm going to be crafting the helm here, and I'm going to craft a couple of them. Too far away. I'm going to craft a couple of them so that I have some options. Now, I want to point this out. So you can see the first one I crafted, it's got a pretty even distribution of resists across the board. So you may think, oh, this would be the ideal piece, and it may. But for this scenario, since I know that I'm going to be at least imbuing fire resist, I really want a low fire score on each piece of item, because then I'll get the most benefit in additional points with imbue. So you can only imbue fire resist up to, like, say, I think it's 17 or 18. So the lower that my fire resist is on the initial piece, the more points that I'm getting with that one single imbue. So you can see in this next piece, it's not as even, so what would have gone into fire went into physical resistance instead. So that's kind of like a free imbue, if you will. This one's even better. It starts off with 18 physical resistance, 5 fire. So on this piece, I would be able to get 13 additional points out of my single fire imbue, whereas this one, I would only get an additional 7 points. So you can kind of see how that works. This one actually may be even better because it's got 15 physical resist, 4 fire, so I'm going to get 14 points. A little bit low and cold, but I can make up for that otherwise. But then it's you can see the other one's got pretty decent boosts as well. So I'll probably be taking this piece as a starter. So that's a real good base. So with all of your crafted armor, you want to kind of shoot for that. Look for at least 1 or 2 low resists with all the points being allocated into the other 3. And that allows you to say, I'm only going to do 1 resist imbue on this piece, and the rest can just sit the way they are. So while you're crafting your metal armor pieces, a few things that I recommend. Of course, my crafter is, right now I've got, of course, 120 blacksmith, which is really good. You want at least GM, obviously, because you need all of these armor pieces to be GM quality. But 120, especially when I'm going to be crafting plate mail, gives it so that I have a little bit I'm not wasting as much material. So Valerite is, is kind of rare. It can be expensive and hard to find if you don't know how to get it. I can talk a little bit about the best way to get Valerite here, maybe later at the end of this video, but I don't want to waste any. So if you see that even with, I have a talisman that gives me 29% exceptional bonus, which is pretty close to the top, most max bonus you can get for that. With 120 blacksmith, with this talisman, even then when I'm crafting a plate mail tunic, I only have a 74% chance to get an exceptional item. So one of the things you can do, especially if you're not 120 blacksmith yet, or you don't have these talismans, you can just grind through it and hopefully you'll get good rolls. But I like kind of a 100% chance if I can get it. So I will use the ancient hammers, or the ancient smith hammers as they're called, or ash is. You get these by completing blacksmith bods. They're not that hard to get. The 30 is not that hard to get. It's probably kind of like a mid-tier bod, or mid to upper tier bod. The 60, the plus 60 is relatively hard to get. You do need very specific bods to get it, but it is worth the time and effort if you can. It does come with quite a few charges. And I don't use this all the time. I only use it when I absolutely need to. So in this particular case, since I'm 120 Smith with my talisman, I can get away with just using plus 30. So what this does is actually gives you plus 30 to your blacksmith. You could see this is the only, I think it's the only skill that allows you to overcap past 120. You can see I've got 150 blacksmith now, plus my percentages from my talisman. So now if I try to craft a plate mail tunic, you'll see that I have a 100% chance for exceptional, and it takes 25 ingots. So I don't really want to waste these. So I'm going to go ahead and use this on the harder pieces. I'm not going to use it for all of them. Like for example, the helmets, I had a 96% chance without using the ash. So I just went ahead and did that anyway. But if it's lower than 90%, I would definitely recommend wielding an ancient smith hammer and just using a few charges to make these pieces. Okay, so I was able to make 3 good plate mail Valerite pieces for my new suits. And I'll be using the mannequin here. You can see that even with just these 3 pieces, I'm able to get it up to 44 resist, or 44 physical, 28 cold. It's a little low. So I'm averaging more than 10 points on these 3 resist skills, which is good. So you can see I spent some time to just create a few extra pieces to get the right rolls. And all of these, they have low fire resist. This one's pretty good. I'm going to get 15 points out of that. 14 points out of that. So one thing I recommend is don't scrap the other pieces immediately, especially if they were close to good. So I'm just going to keep them in my salvage bag for right now, because when I get all my pieces together, I might want to mix and match. So I try to keep all the good pieces handy. I don't salvage them immediately, so that when I'm piecing this suit together, I want to try to get as close to max resist as I can without imbuing. That's the key. I'm going to try to save as many imbues for other properties that I want. Okay, so now we're on to crafting the woodland pieces in our suit. So the woodland pieces are elven only, and that's why one of the reasons why we chose elf for our initial Sampire build. One of the reasons why we do woodland armor for a starter set is because it is one of the ways we can get damage increase into our gear. So if you craft woodland armor, which is done with a carpenter, you need at least GM carpentry. You'll also need some sort of carpentry crafting talisman. So mine, I've got 28% exceptional bonus and 24% carpentry bonus. Now these are kind of a pain in the butt still, because you can see if you use carpentry, it's under armor. Woodland You've got chest, arms, gauntlets, leggings, and gorget. Um, the uh, the gauntlets, for example, even with GM carpentry and my talisman, I only have a 63% chance of exceptional. So this is compounded further that not every piece we craft with heartwood is going to give us either damage increase or hit chance increase. So those are the properties we're looking for. So like these, for example, this is one I just crafted where it's got 10 damage increase. But see, the resists aren't really exactly where I want. I don't really want 13 fire. I might use this one anyway and just forego imbuing fire on this piece and do maybe cold instead because I will need cold. So might be a good candidate. Um, Regardless, I'm going to do a couple, and you'll see as you start to craft them, you'll get either damage increase or hit chance increase or nothing. So what I like to do is keep all the exceptional pieces that I make that have either hit chance increase or damage increase um, until I get a few good options. Um, it's also a little bit of a pain. You will need to find bark fragments, and if you have a lumberjacking character, um, bark fragments aren't a big deal. You'll probably get a whole pack full of them. So you want to keep all of these for heartwood crafting. They're also used in making scroll binders, etc. So they're useful to keep around. But you'll need to get as much heartwood as you can. It does go pretty quick. We are going to be making 3 pieces of heartwood armor, and I want one of them with damage increase and 2 of them with hit chance increase. So I'm going to burn through probably a bunch of heartwood um, and bark fragments, just trying to get the right pieces on this. So like I said here, the gauntlets, I might end up using these, but I'm going to make a few more just to see. Okay, so I've crafted a bunch of different woodland pieces that are all exceptional GM that either have damage increase of 10 or hit chance increase of 5. Now I gave myself a couple of each type, so I made sure that I had some hit chance and damage increase of each type. So I did burn through quite a bit of heartwood on this, probably about 1,000, maybe 1,100 boards, and close to maybe 200 bark frags. So it does use quite a bit of resources. I could have done this more and gotten some more perfect pieces, but I think I found 3 pieces that will fit what I want to do. So as I mentioned, I want to make sure that I have 1 damage increase and 2 hit chance increase. So I chose these hit chance increase ones, the Woodland leggings. So you can see they're low on cold, and they have a little room in fire if I need. So I go ahead and put it on my mannequin. And now you can also use your own character. They recently updated the mannequin to show this view suit stats, which is it's actually pretty useful. This is the first time I'm fully utilizing it. Normally I would just use my own character. I'd equip them on myself and then look at my own stats, but I'm giving the mannequin a shot here. So I also chose these gauntlets. They're my damage increase items. Um, and they have low cold as well, with a little and also a little bit of room on energy. So I go ahead and equip those, and the gorget, I chose the hit chance increase one, and it's a little bit of room on fire and some room on cold. So if I equip all of those onto the mannequin and then I view the stats, you can see that I've got enough physical, so I don't need to do any imbues there. I've got enough poison. I'm overcapped on both of those, so I could actually probably refine these. I won't bother refining these items because we'll talk about refining later when we get into the more advanced Sampire suit. So just remember, this is our kind of starter trainer suit. This is going to get us through to GMing or 120ing all our skills and doing some basic stuff until we can maybe find some artifacts, some roof drops, or some legendaries that give us more properties that we want. But you'll see when we're done with this will be at least max resists and all the critical properties we need. That is the benefit of using an all custom suit. Um, so looking at this though, that I have a pretty low fire, which I expect, and it's kind of a low cold and a little bit less energy that I wanted. So um, if I kind of do some math, if you remember, we talked about initially with the Sampire in vampire form, you're going to have -25 to your fire resist automatically applied. So our suit will need to have 95 total fire resist. Um, so that's one of the reasons why I picked the Valorate metal pieces, 3 of them, with really low fire. So if you add these up, so the max will be able to imbue fire resist will be to 18. So this will give me 14 points. This will give me 15 points, and this will give me 14 points. So real quick, that adds up to about 43 points I'll be able to get just by imbuing that. So I will be off, so that'll give me 87, and I will need another, um, what is that, 8 points. So um, I have plenty of room on this one. I could put this one up to 18 fire. I could put pretty much any of these up to 18 fire. Not that one. But I could do either of these items. I could put fire on either of these, and that would give me my full uh, 95 in fire resist. So now with cold, I also probably will be adding cold to, with cold I will need, let's see, what is it? 13, I need 23 points. So I can get at least maybe 11 to 12 points out of that, and 11 to 12 points out of that. So that should be fine. By imbuing cold as an additional resist on 2 of the woodland, I will be able to go up, and then on the third one, I will give the remaining 8 points in my energy that I'm short. Because this only shows 70 as the max resist, but in fact it's actually 75. So I might be a little short on energy. We'll see when we get into imbuing these, but that looks to be pretty good. That'll mean so that I'm on 3 of these pieces, I'm only actually giving 1 resist imbue, and that'll give me 4 other properties for the stuff that I want. And on a couple of these, I'll be adding 2 resist imbues to just kind of get me up to a full 70 set. So that looks good. So that'll be the set. Now the rest of these pieces I am going to just kind of keep handy. I'm not going to throw them away quite yet because I might need to go through and swap them out. Okay, so now we're ready to start prepping our armor for imbuing, but the most important piece that you want to remember to do before you start any imbuing is that once we know we have the pieces that we're going to work with, so here's my 6 armor pieces, notice that the durability is 94 and 67 and 112. So we don't really want to spend a lot of time, money, and resources on these items because they have really low durability. So what we're going to do is you're going to need to use Powder of Fortification. And what Powder of Fortification does is, so I've got a bunch set in a keg here. You can use it to increase the durability of an item. So we're going to use Powder of Fortification to set the durability on all these items to 255. Now it's very important to do this before you do any imbuing at all, because once you imbue, you will not be, I probably shouldn't have done that last one, but you won't be able to apply powder anymore. So once an imbue has been done on an item, you can no longer apply the Powder of Fortification. So it's very important to do this first on all the items. It will take several charges. Each charge gives you 10 durability, so 1 bottle will give you 100 total durability. You're going to need several on this. It's probably at least, I would estimate maybe 10. or 100 total charges we can see after I'm done here. And you want to do this on basically any of the crafted items that you're going to imbue because, um, you know, the items do wear down pretty quickly, especially with a melee character. You're going to get hit a lot. The durability is going to go down, and every time you repair, the maximum durability reduces a little bit. So you want to really get the most you can out of these items. And we'll finish these off. And it looks right. So we probably used about 100 charges. There we go. So now all 6 of my items are max durability and they are ready to be imbued. So I'm going to show you real quick how to get the powder of fortification. So it's not really hard to get. A lot of times you can try to find it from vendors. It's not too expensive, so you can say powder in vendor search, and we'll see if anyone's offering any. So a lot of times I'll check this first because you know, gold's fairly easy to come by, and there are people that are very efficient. They have it down how to get the powder of fortification. So you can see, um, yeah, right. I'm not paying 17 mil. So empty kegs for 225. They're selling for 115. It's a little steep for me. Um, So that would, you know, that would put our total cost of the powder we did probably at, you know, almost $1.5 million or so. So that's a little steep for me. You know, however, if you've got the gold, this might be the best way to get it. Um, the way you can make this on your own or get it on your own is to use the BOD system. Now, BODs that's a pretty complex subject, and I'm not going to go into super detail, but what I will tell you is that to get powder of fortification from a blacksmith BOD, you need a BOD that is worth at least 450 turn-in points. And you can find these by basically taking any exceptional um, metal armor BOD, not the weapons, but the armor, and bribing it up to at least shadow. So, you know, it depends on what kind of ingots you have available to you. Shadow, like for example, I don't have a lot of shadow, but I have a bunch of copper and I have a bunch of bronze and I have a bunch of gold because it used to be easier to get gold than shadow. Um, so it depends on what you have, and you can experiment with this, but you basically need 450 turn-in points, and you can do this with small BODs. So it's fairly easy to get a BOD like this, which is like 15 exceptional helmets. It's pretty low cost, low ingot cost. You want to stay away from things like plate tunics that take a lot of ingots. But you know, the smaller ingot BODs like shields and helmets, they'll have the same turn-in value. It doesn't really matter the armor type. It's really the type of it or whether it's exceptional or not and how many. So you can see that this BOD, just iron exceptional 15, is worth 225. However, if I go to the smith, um, and you might want to, you know, make a rune book full of all the smith locations because you can only bribe them a couple times. And then I use the bribe option to bribe this up, and it'll say, hey, the first one is 0, so it doesn't even cost me anything to move this up to dull copper. So now you can see it's 15 exceptional dull helmets made out of dull copper instead of iron, and now it's actually 425. It's not quite there. Now if this was 20 point um, exceptional, then I would probably have 450 points and I wouldn't have to go any further. Instead, I'm going to bribe it up one more time. Cost me 500 gold. And now it's 15 exceptional shadow, and you can see it's worth 475. So I could fill this bod, turn it into him, and get, and then you can select powder of fortification from the rewards list, and as you can see, it is 450 turnip points. Just to point out, this is also a good way to get runics and other things. So generally speaking, the small bods will only take you up to a certain amount. You can buy them all the way up to Valorite and still get some pretty good. You can get up to copper or ash tan hammers using small bods. Or maybe even Ash 15. So it's a good. I would encourage you to collect bods and bribe them up and just experiment with that. But in terms of powder fortification, it's one of the easier things to get. You only need 450 turn-in points. You can do it with small bods that you bribe up for very cheap, as you saw. Only cost me 500 gold pieces, and of course whatever the cost of the shadow ingots are. So if I have them lying around, it's nothing. If I have to buy them or mine them, then it's whatever that cost is. So there you go. That's how you're going to get all your items up to max durability before we begin the imbue process. Okay, so let's get on to imbuing. So imbuing is it's a pretty interesting crafting ability in Ultima Online. There's a lot to it. Different items can have different values imbued onto them, especially in the case of armor. There's certain things that you can imbue or find in the wild or find on dropped items that you cannot imbue. So this tutorial isn't really meant to be an overall encompassing guide to imbuing. It's really going to be just focused on the armor that we're going to make for our new Sampire. I'm going to show you some of the techniques that I use. We're not going to be doing a lot of the properties to maximum value, and I'll show you why here, because they are kind of expensive in terms of the imbuing regs, and frankly, again, this is our starter Sampire. I want to try to keep the cost down as much as possible. I will say that we're going to at least be needing a bunch of relic frags and enchanted essence and maybe some magical residue as well. So that's just for the armor pieces. At least relic frags and enchanted essence. You'll also need a bunch of the different types of gems. So what I'm going to do first is kind of show you how to plan out what materials we may need in advance before you actually start imbuing, so that you can take the time to gather. I can tell you that one of the properties we'll be using a lot of Boura pelts, and I only have 10 right now, so I'm going to have to go and gather a whole bunch of these, and I'll show you where I go to do that. So basically, to imbue, to do this, you're going to want as close to max imbuing as you can get. So I have 120, makes it easy for me. If you have a gargoyle imbuer, you get a little bit of a bonus. If you decide that you want to use the Queen Soul Forge, you get a little bit more bonus. And in some cases, I may use this later towards the very end of imbuing an object. So the more items and properties, the more weight, imbuing weight an object is using, the harder it will be, the less success chance you will have. So a lot of times what I want to do is I want to just kind of plan out what these items are. So you stand next to a Soul Forge and you use the imbuing skill, and you say imbue item. Now, even though I don't have any of the regs in my pack, I can still kind of go through and see. So we're going to, for example, each of these is going to have lower mana cost. And you can see that 1% is 1 relic frag, 1 tourmaline. Maximum that you can imbue any piece of armor with lower mana cost is 8%, and that would require 10 Essence of Order, as well as 5 relic frags and 10 tourmalines. Now I only have 21 Essence of Order. I don't plan on using 8 because if I just go down 1, you can see 7% does not require Essence of Order at all, and it's 1 less relic frag and a little bit So the gems are cheap. You can buy them from a jeweler NPC. Well, they're not cheap, but you can buy them. So what I usually do is buy them like in lots of 500 and bring them back, so I have them all handy. Um, the relic frags you get by unraveling artifact items. So items that you find while you're, exploring and looting. You ideally, while you were training your imbuer, you collected a bunch of these while unraveling. If not, you may be able to find them on a vendor or something. But basically, the only way to get relic frags is to unravel artifact level or greater items that you find. Um, you can actually craft relics, but that's a subject for a different time. So same with enchanted essence, you get the essence and the residue by unraveling items, and they, again, if you have a 120 imbuer, this shouldn't be a problem. You should have plenty of these. Now, when we get into the other parts of the gear set, like mainly the rings, we'll be using Essence of Precision and some other stuff. So I will tell you where to find those as well. But for the armor, we're essentially just going to be using lower mana costs. So we know, hey, I'm going to need relics, I'm going to need tourmalines. And relics are a little bit more expensive. So notice that since I'm doing this one first, there's only one property, and that's the one I'm adding, right? Uh, my success chance is, it's guaranteed, 177.7% chance. So it's going to happen. And you notice that it's setting my property weight to 96 out of 500. This is important because if I went to, notice that the weight for lower mana cost is 1.1 or 110% intensity. If I went to its max, I would be using 110 weight. So you can have 5 properties, or you can have 500 weight. So you can very easily run out of weight with less than 5 properties if you're using max properties um, that have a weight greater than 1. So that's why one of the reasons why we're going to be moving this down to 7, and it's just to save some money essentially. These do run about like 10k a piece from most vendors. There are Essence of Order. If you do want to do these max, you can do it. They're items you can pick up in the Stygian Abyss, and I may show you where to get those at the end of this video. So I'm not going to imbue this. I'm just going to go back. I also know that I'm going to want to raise my fire resist. So if you remember on this particular item, fire is 4, and I want to raise it to, we said, what's the max? It's 18. So the max imbue for all of the resists, it requires residue, which is cheap and easy. You get that from unraveling. Rubies, of course, you can just buy from an NPC, and then Boura pelts. And as I said, I only have 10 Boura pelts, so since I'm going to want to do a lot of max resist imbues, I'm going to need a bunch more of these, so that goes on my list. I know I'm also going to want to add stats, so mana increase is going to be very important on this. I can see that 8 mana increase requires 10 luminescent fungi, and I was looking for it earlier. I actually only have 13, so I wouldn't be able to do maxes on these anyway, but if I lower it down just 1, it only requires essence and sapphire. So this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing slightly under the max on most of these properties except for resist, and that just keeps the cost of this suit way, way lower. Very easy to acquire these items, and it's not quite as difficult in terms of the property weight and how much you need an imbue. So mana increase will be one item, stamina increase will be another, and that's basically the same thing. So enchanted and diamonds, which are more expensive, and then of course at 7 stamina, that'll give us, it'll take 8 diamonds. So far we're going to do resists, we're going to do mana increase, we're going to do stamina increase, and we're going to do lower mana cost. Now on a couple of these I may have the option for a 5th property, and in which case I'd probably take something like hit point increase, just to give my character some extra hit points. You cannot, notice how you cannot actually imbue strength or dex or intelligence. those can only be acquired by either reforging, which we're not going to do on this suit, or finding them on items. Now, that'll make the difference between what this is a starter suit. It's just going to have mana increase and stamina increase, maybe a little bit of hit points. Um, as we go on with our Sampire, we may find items that gives us dex increase or strength increase or intelligence, or have over 8 in these values or over capped. So that's how we start to build our more advanced Sampire set, is slowly over time we'll find these items. But for the case of this, that's all we're going to do. We're not going to need anything other than lower mana cost, resists, and a little bit of stats. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off and collect a bunch of boar pelts. I'm going to add up how many I need, and I'm going to hop on one of my Dexter characters, and I'll show you where I farm those. Okay, so I hopped on another character. Of course, I'm using my existing Sampire here to make it a little bit faster for me, but really any type of character can do. I think we said this before, that generally your Sampire should not be your first character in Ultima Online. As you can see already, the requirements for needing to be able to craft some of the stuff and just gather some of the resources you need to make the gear you need will make that pretty difficult. So, you can use a mage, you can use a tamer, whatever you have available for this. These aren't very difficult creatures. So we're going to go here. It's in Termer. It's just north of the Royal City. So you'll come into the gate here, and then you just go up through the city, and you'll leave out this gate and come up through, and you cross this bridge. And then I recommend kind of making a rune right here. And what we're going to be looking for is the Highland Bouras, and they'll spawn in this area. Now there are some other things that do spawn in here as well, like the sliths and those sorts of things. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong section. Maybe it's just south of this bridge. So there's an area. Yes, it's just south. So you can come up in here. It's really between these two bridges. You should see several Highland Bouras that just spawn continuously here. So you want to start here, of course, by killing them. They can, hit with some sort of damage. So make sure that this isn't for new characters. As they can see, they will. They will hit you pretty hard. So, good enemy one or a pet will make quick work of these guys. Now you'll see he'll drop one Boura pelt. So I estimated I'm going to need probably about 60 more of these. So I'm going to be killing these Highland Bouras, and what you do is you just kind of run around until you see another one. Now they do spawn here pretty quick, and so you should be able to just stay in this little area between these two bridges just north of the road here and farm these Bouras until you get enough Boura pelts to continue with the imbue. Now what you can do also, what's interesting is that when you skin these, you'll get some other items. Now they drop horned leather, which is kind of interesting, but they also will drop dragon's blood and furs. Now I'm not quite sure what the furs are for. I think maybe some crafting quest or something. But the dragon blood can be useful. There is a quest to get the crystal ball of knowledge that you will need to get dragon's blood. So this is kind of a good place to go. Um, you know, so the items won't show up, of course, until you skin them. Now there's some other things that will appear on a skinned Boura, like another type of their fur or their hide. But we're looking for the Boura pelts, and they weigh less than 1 stone. So you should be able to sit here and farm them for a while and get the pelts you need. All right, so I'm going to finish this up and we'll get back to our imbuing. Okay, so After kind of reviewing some of my the armor pieces I've created, I'm going to change my plan a little bit on the imbuing of these items. I'm actually not going to imbue lower mana cost on the plate helm, and the reason for that is because eventually I'm probably going to want to swap out this helmet with something as my Sampire advances. I want to add some sort of hit lower defense headwear. So the ones that are out there, like Mason Shield or the Blackthorn's plate helmet or the prismatic lenses, none of them have lower mana cost. So I don't really want to have to depend on lower mana cost. And if I do get that piece, I'm not going to want to have to swap out the rest of my gear. So what I am going to do instead is add LMC at 8% on 5 pieces, which will give me 40 LMC that I need. It'll actually give me a little bit more because the 2 plate pieces actually have inherent LMC, so these will be 9 and 9, and this one will actually give me 1 anyway. So I will have a total of 43 LMC when I am done with this. In order to do that, though, I'm going to have to go and farm some essence of order. So I'm going to show you how to find that now. If you can, find some on a vendor. They run about 15 to 20K a piece, and you will need 50. So it's quite substantial. So I'm going to show you where to farm that. You will need some sort of combat or hunting character in order to complete that task. If for some other reason you have other gear or you don't really you want to keep doing the 7% on each one, that'll work. You can do it without the Essence of Order, but I'm going to change my plan to include 8% on each of my pieces except for the helmet. Okay, so to find the Essence of Order, the only place I know to get this, you can either try to buy it from a vendor, simply do a vendor search for Essence of Order, and they'll generally run between 15 and 20K per is what the going rate on my shard is anyway. Your shard may be more expensive or cheaper, regardless. It really depends on supply and demand. Sometimes they're hard to find in any sort of large number. What I usually do is I will bring, a Sampire or a Tamer down to the Stygian Abyss. So if you don't know how to get into the Stygian Abyss, you're going to have to, probably look that up. It's kind of a little bit longer topic than I want to go over here. But um, in the Stygian Abyss, there are several what they call mini spawns. And on your map, they're marked here with little skull pins. So you can see there's enslaved goblins, there's the Fire Temple ruins, and there's Secret Garden, and there's some all over. Each of these spawns, the mobs inside the spawns, even like snakes and beetles and all the lesser spawns, all of the corpses have a chance of dropping some of the more rare imbuing reagents. So for Essence of Order, where you're going to find it is here at the Fire Temple ruins. Now there's a fire demon boss, and they can get kind of tough. So you don't want to bring a new character down here. I would recommend either a Sampire that already exists, or a well-equipped Dexer, or a mage. Rising Colossus will work really well here, as well as, of course, pets. So pretty much any of your existing hunting templates will work. You just want to take it a little slow, and you want to make sure that you loot all of the corpses. And so sometimes that's a little bit harder than it seems. So what I like to do to get here, and this will depend on the shard that you're playing on. So in the Stygian Abyss, there's actually 2 house spots, and one of them is here that comes in right near the Secret Garden. Now if you're running in here through like the Volcano Dungeon, for example, or the Underworld, you'll come in down here and you kind of have to run through some of these other spawns to get up into this. You have to actually run across this bridge and up through. So you want to try to avoid getting targeted as much as you can until you get up into this area. Or if you're lucky enough to be on a shard where somebody has placed a house here and they're providing public teleport portals on my shard, um, there's a house in Luna that has teleport locations for uh, both both of the houses in the Stygian Abyss. So I just happen to know where this is, and it allows me to get here pretty quickly. Um, so you might want to find out where that is on your shard. Most shards will have that sort of setup. Somebody has a house here inside the Stygian Abyss, and they've provided public teleports, usually to something like in Luna. Um, every shard I've been has had some sort of like this, but the first time you go through, if you don't know where that is, you might have to come in through, like, say, the underworld and run up to that house and look to see if you can find the teleporter. And at that point, you'll have the rune to get here quickly. So what we're going to do this spawn is, again, we're going to take it kind of slow, and you can see there's these weird slopes that come in. And the fire temple will start off with snakes. Well, actually, it starts off usually with fire ants. So this has been advanced a little bit. But I'll show you that you can simply, with a Sampire, you're going to want to, group them together. But what I try to do is, oops, let me equip a weapon. That might help. What I try to do is lead them off into a corner somewhere so that I can loot. So you'll see there's snakes and lava lizards. Uh, I don't want to kill them in the middle because the spawn will change pretty quickly, and the more advanced monsters on this happen to be like fire elementals and fire demons, which can hit you very hard. You want to be stuck trying to loot. So what I do is I'll just kill a bunch of them, try to lead them off into the corner, and then I'll loot. And you can see now they don't all drop, but they'll drop. Some of these will drop Essence of Order. So I'll hit Control and Shift and open up all the corpses. Try to loot the essence and move on. So I finished going through all the way on this spawn to the end where the fire demon. Now I will say that this is not a great spawn for, like I said, new or kind of not established characters, because the fire demons and the lava elementals both spawn at the same time, and they are opposing. So especially if you're using something like a demon slayer, the fire elementals will do double damage to you, or increase damage, and vice versa if you're using an elemental slayer. So you kind of have to be quick on how you're switching back and forth. You can see after kind of running through once, I have 12 Essence of Order, but there's some other cool, like the lava elementals will drop the lava serpent crusts, which is also what you need to craft, to imbue the reptile slayer property. So they're worth picking up. Um, what is tough about here is being able to loot all the corpses, because even the snakes and the lizards and everything, they all can carry the Essence of Order. So you want to really do your best to loot all the corpses, and a lot of times the best way is just try to lead them up here or lead them into a corner so that you can kill them and loot casually and drag some more in. Now I'm going to do this I'm going to go through another round of this to see if I can get it up to 20 or 25 Essence of Order. Okay, so let's get into the imbuing. So now that I've gathered all the reagents that I need, I have over 50 Essence of Order, and I was able to get I have over 90 Boura Pelts, so that should be more than enough that I need to do all my max resist imbues. I've got all the relic frags I need, I've got plenty of gems, and that should be it. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the lower mana cost and all these items that are going to take it. So I'll start with the Gorget, and I'll make sure, of course, that I set my durability to 255. And I kind of like to put my essence box right near my soul forge so that it's easy. I don't have to move around much. And if I go into lower the imbuing menu and select lower mana costs at 8%, it's saying I need 5 relic frags, uh, tourmaline, 10 tourmaline, and 10 essence of order. So it's important to note that, notice on this piece that it's actually saying this will be my second property, and that's because the hit chance increase that I crafted onto it counts as a property and counts towards the weight. So you can see it's actually quite a bit. It doesn't really count much to the weight, so it's taking up only hit chance increase of 5% is only taking up 56% or less, 50% probably. So that's kind of a benefit, but it is actually adding another property. So I have to keep that in mind while I'm crafting these, since I will want to be also adding resist to this as well as mana increase and stamina increase. So I'm going to go ahead and start with LMC since I know I need that on all 5 of these pieces. I'm going to just drag all 50 of my essence into my pack. And since I need 5 of them, I'm going to need 25 relic frags. Now, the reason why I do LMC first is because it does use relic frags, and if I fail, so with imbuing, this is also another common misconception. When you fail an imbuing attempt, you will lose materials, but you never lose the last material. And usually it's the last material that's the hardest to get. So in this case, the essence of order. However, for LMC, relic frags, I have plenty of them, but they may not be as plentiful to use. So you want to make sure that you use these judiciously. You don't want to try to do LMC last when you're only dealing with 20% success rate. So you want to kind of get it out of the way initially. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to drag over a bunch of tourmalines as well so that I can do all of these imbues kind of back to back. So I'm going to take off these items. I know I want LMC 8 on all 5 of these items. I'm going to leave the helmet on for right now. And I'm going to ahead and say, yes, imbue item. And you can see now I have an item that has, of course, the hit chance increase that came with it and LMC 8. Now I'm going to use imbue last property. And I'm going to select the arms. Make sure that my durability is set first. It looks good. Done. Imbue last property. We'll do the legs. Now same thing, this one has hit chance increase, so this will be the second property. Done. This one, it'll be the first property. And finally, we'll do it on the gloves. Great. So now if I go ahead and equip all my items, it's important to not rush through this process. You want to take it very slow, make sure that you're doing the right thing, that you're selecting the right item. These materials are very expensive and hard to come by, so you want to use them as judiciously as you can. So now if I open up my character sheet and I look, I will see that now, of course, I have 43 lower mana cost, and that's great. Alright, so next I'm going to move on to resists. So generally I want to make sure that on my suit my lower mana cost is out of the way. It's usually the most expensive in terms of relic frags and difficulty, so I want to get it done first. So you can see I've got LMC on all my items. Now I'm going to start with resist. So I'll start with the helmet. Now the helmet, since I did change my plans a little bit, I'm going to do full resist imbue for fire, of course, which would take it up to 18, and then I'm going to take cold resist up to 17. I think will give us, it's either 16 or 17, will give us either 8 or 9 points there. And then that way, this item will have 2 properties as well. It'll still give me room for the other 3, and so, we'll make plenty of room. So with the max resists, as we talked about, it is the gems do change depending on which resist. So for fire, it's ruby, but they all require residue and Boura pelt. So I'm going to go ahead and take a bunch of residue. I'll just grab 150 here, and I'm going to just grab all the Boura pelts and put them in my pack. and I will grab some rubies um, because I'll be doing fire resist on several items. So here we go. 18, make sure that, just to make sure, I'm going to make sure I'm selecting the right item. Imbue onto helmet, resist, fire resist, 18. That's as far as I can go. It is only one property, and go ahead. Excellent. So I'm also going to do cold on this all the way up, since I'm here and I've already got it off, I'm going to look at this and it says it needs sapphire. So I'm going to grab some sapphires, put them in my pack, and I can take it up to 17. So I'll get 9 points out of this. And so it's pretty important to do these kind of one item at a time. Even if you do the math ahead of time, sometimes things change, like my plan here. So I'm going to imbue this. And now you can see I've got crafted helmet that's got quite substantial resists on it. I'm not going to move on to the rest of the properties yet. I'm just going to put it back on, and I'm going to take a look and make sure that see where I'm going with cold and fire. All right, so let me finish off fire with the rest of these. So let me do fire on the arms, imbue item, resists, fire, 18. You can see this is the second property. Excellent. And I also want to do fire on my the metal chest piece. So imbue item, resist, fire. All right. So now I'm going to put those back on, and I should see. It's a little tough actually. You won't be able to see it completely on here. Now you'll see I have 70, but actually I have more than 70. So what I'm going to do is use the mannequin to just confirm. I'm going to switch clothes and then look at the mannequin stats. And you can see fire resist is at 87, and I need it at 95. So I actually need an additional 8 points, which I kind of planned out ahead of time, so that's matching perfectly. So I'm going to switch my clothes back, and we'll go ahead and look to see what other fire item we were going to add. So this one already had fire, so I think we talked about adding it to, so that one has 2 properties. If I add fire to that one, I won't be able to. So if I add fire to this one, that'll be 3 properties, and that'll still leave room for mana and stamina. So I'm going to add fire, the 8 points to this gorget. Now see, I failed. So let's see what our chance rate on that was again. Fire resist. Well, so I guess it was just bad luck. So usually 80% is pretty good. I don't worry too much about it, but there we go. So now you can see that item has 18, and so now if I go and swap my clothes again and then look at the stats, I have 95 fire resist. So that is as far as I need to take that. If I am in vampire form, I will still have 70 fire. Now it doesn't count for corpse skin or anything like that, so we're not going to really worry too much about that right now. Generally speaking, you want to, with the Sampire, you want to get as much fire resist as you can, because corpse skin will reduce your fire resist even further. So you can go below 70 in the right circumstance, especially if somebody's like cursing you or curse and corpse skin and then hitting you with fire. It can be devastating. So you want as much overcapped in fire as you can get eventually. But for this initial suit, 95 is perfect. That's what we're going to stick with. And we're going to switch clothes back, and let's look at our cold damage. So with cold, I can just keep it on, and I need 14. I need 24 points total. So this one has 3 properties already. I'm going to ignore that one. This one actually already did cold, so that one has 2 properties. This one has 2 properties on it. I can probably add cold there. I can add cold definitely to this one, which will be the 3rd property. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's add cold to maximum. That'll actually add 10 points. And how much did I say I needed? I needed 14 points. So I could either add cold on this one. Let's add cold to these gloves. That'll be the 3rd property, and it'll still leave us 2 points on there. So let's go ahead and imbue here. We're going to have to actually add it on both items, so we'll be overcapped on cold. Actually, what I can do, since I know that, I won't use the pelts, so I'll just do 15 cold on both items, and that'll give me, let me see here, that's 6, so it's adding 9, and then the other one is 6 and adding 9, that'll be 18 points, so that'll be plenty. So we'll go ahead and imbue that. And we said we're going to add it onto our legs. So I saved a few Boura pelts doing that. And now you should see that with all of my armor equipped, I have all 70s, well, except for energy. So energy was the other one that I needed, and we needed 8 points on that one. So let's see here. This one has 2 imbues. I think this was the one I wanted to do. So let's go back to my plate. And we'll, oh wait, let's actually check. No, 12 is too much. So I need 8 points. We're going to imbue, resist, energy, and we can take it up to 17. So that's slightly under. That's good enough for me. I'm going to, let's actually, so that one has 3 already. This one has 3. This one has 2. But 4 is not enough. And this one has 3. This one has only 1 so far, or 2. So, nope, we're going to do it on this plate. And so it's saying we need amethysts. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some. All right. So now you can see I've got an all 70 set. Well, almost. I'm not quite max on energy, but that's okay. It'll be fine. We're going to go over here and swap clothes with the mannequin and just check the stats just to make sure that we're where we need to be. So over capped on everything except for energy, which looks good to me. So that's the resists for our suit. Okay, so now we're going to finish off our suit by adding stamina and mana increase to each of the items, and then I think on our helmet we can add some hit point increase. So let's go ahead and switch our clothes back so we get it equipped, and we'll just take a look, make sure that we're good. All resists, we have 10% damage increase, which is what we're shooting for, 10% hit chance, which is what we're shooting for, and then 43% or 43 on our mana lower cost or lower mana cost. So that looks good pretty so far. I don't have any mana or stamina increase yet, so that's what we're going to work on next. Let's go ahead and start with the Gorget, and you'll see that this item already has 3 properties. So it has the hit chance that came with the item, it has the lower mana cost that I added, and it has the fire resist that I added. So that's 3 properties. So now I have room for 2 more. And you can see that by selecting Imbue on the item and going to stats. And if we say, hey, let's add mana increase to, what do we say, 7. That's going to be the fourth property, and you know, it's 50% chance. That's pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and grab the enchanted essence. We're going to put back these other things I don't need. And we needed sapphire, so we have sapphires, and I just need enchanted essence. Excellent. So here we go. And so if you fail, you can do is just re-imbue last. And so when you get into this stage with 3 or more properties and 50%, you will fail. So just remember that every time you fail, you're just losing a little bit of essence and a little bit of gems. You're not losing the third item if there was one. So you can see now mana increase is 7. Let's go ahead and do that on the rest of my items so that I can use imbue last property. Now this one also will be the fourth, so may fail. Oh, good. And then we'll do it on the gloves, or the gauntlets. Oops. That's weird. Mana increase 7. Alright. So now you can see on our set, well, now we're giving us an additional 40 mana. So this is going to be super useful. Our Sampire will have a base core mana of when our int gets all the way down to 10, plus the 20 from elf. So this will give us an additional 42. This will put us over 72 mana, which is a good place to be for Sampire. If you can shoot between 60 and 80 for your mana pool, you should be good to go. There are ways to increase this using the Bushido Mastery, and we'll talk about that later. Obviously, if you get better items or more intelligence boost items, then you can get a larger mana pool. But between 60 and 80 is where you need to be. Okay. Okay, so to finish this off, we're gonna now get into our stamina increase. Now, actually, if I were smart, I probably would have done stamina increase first because I believe it uses diamonds, which are more expensive. So if I fail on the 4th or 5th imbue, it's going to cost me a bunch. I'm going to fail a bunch. So if you're following this guide, you might want to do stamina increase first and then mana increase, since it's a little bit cheaper in terms of the gems that's used. But I don't really care. Diamonds, you know, I've got a bunch of them, and I can buy them from an NPC vendor very easily. So it's just gold. So I'm going to say stamina increase, and I'm going to maximize this. Now on the helmet, it's only the 4th property, and it's putting me at 31%. So I'm probably going to fail this a little bit, but that's okay. So it's saying I need. Oops, it's actually 35 because I want 7. I need diamonds, so I'm going to pull over some diamonds and make sure that I have enchanted essence and roll the dice. So it took me a couple tries, and now that one's done. Now I'm going to actually just well, I'll do that last. So that's great. I'm going to put that back on. We're going to repeat that process. So now this item will be the 5th imbue. So it's actually going to, yeah, my chance is at 27%, so it's a little bit less. Now, I could, if I wanted to, I could grab up all the materials and I could go over to the Queen's Soul Forge and get a little bit bonus on this. I don't mind failing a little bit. They're just gems and enchanted essence, so I don't really care if I fail and lose a little bit. But Say you're, if you're not a full 120 imbue, or you're not a gargoyle, or you want to go to the Soul Forge, you can use any of those bonuses. When you start to get into the fourth and fifth properties is when you're, even at max imbue, you're going to fail a bunch. So that's why you try to plan out the imbues to be the most expensive ones first, and then the ones that are the least expensive in terms of materials last. So if you do fail, it's not as expensive. I didn't do that with this, so shame on me, but we're going to do it anyway. Here we go. So I lucked out and did it on the first try. So that piece is done. That has 5 properties. And let's move on to the arms. And I'm just checking. So this one also only had, this is the 4th imbue. So I'll be able to actually put something on, an additional property on both the arms and the helmet. So we'll do that afterwards. Say diamond, imbue. You see I failed a couple times, but then I got both of them on there. And we'll move on to the legs. Now this should be the 5th property on the legs, because it had the hit chance increase already on it. You can see 5th property, 30% chance. Ooh, lucky. First roll. Now onto the chest piece. Okay, so this one I kind of went a little bit over because I added energy resist on this. So now notice I'm overweight. I can't actually imbue this at 7. I have to do it at 6. So that's a little disappointing. I suppose actually, you know what I could do is lower energy by 1 since I'm over capped. Let's do that. So I'll show you a trick here. So if this occurs, you can actually re-imbue the same property. So instead of 17, right, I'm going to make it down to 16. And actually, no, I can't do that. I need that full. Let me just double check here. I'll swap the clothes. View stats. Nope, that's right. Energy, I'm not even close to overcap. So I'm gonna have to sacrifice 1 point in stamina. It's okay. Um, it's what happens. These pieces are all, RNG. So it really depends on the rolls you get, and sometimes it's not perfect. So I'm going to imbue this to have 6 stamina, which puts me quite a bit under. I notice I'm failing a bunch. All right, there we go. So that piece is done. All right, so last one would be the gloves. We're going to add stamina increase here. And you can see plenty of room because the hit chance or the damage increase actually is not taking up any weight at all. That's what's kind of nice at some of the unimbuable crafted properties. They do take up a slot, but they don't take up any weight. So like if I were, and you'll find this useful on things like weapons or rings that have swing speed increase, that they take up a slot, but then you can then max imbue the other 4 properties without much problem. So we're still going to do 7 here. Should be an easy one. There we go. All right. So that's the stamina increase. Okay, so we're almost done with this armor. Now you can see after both the mana and stamina increase, I have 41 stamina and 42 mana. So that'll put our mana pool at around 72, and it will ultimately put our stamina pool at least 160, hopefully 170. So we're actually shooting for 180, and eventually you'll see we're going to add some dexterity items that will put us over 180. So our goal will be 180 stamina at least. The 41 stamina that is on our armor only will greatly help that, and it'll make it so that we're swinging as fast as we can on some of the items, especially while we're training. We want that to be the case. So the only thing left to do on this is we have one open property on our helmet and one open property on our arms. So we're going to see what's good to put there. Let's take a look at the helmet. If we look under stats and we say, let's look at, we have a couple options. Stamina, we could add hit point regeneration. I really like hit point increase. So let's see what we can add this to. So if we do it on 4, it's pretty close to max weight. I couldn't do max weight. You can see I'm slightly over capped 502. That is frustrating. But 4, which is what I'd planned on doing anyway, requires rubies and enchanted essence. So I have both of those. It's 17% chance. I'm actually going to just give this a roll and see what happens. So obviously I'm failing several times, and finally I got it. So don't be afraid to just burn through gems like that. If you've got gold, you can always buy gems. You know, the enchanted essence is pretty easy to come by. I've got, a couple thousand of them just from unraveling various crap that you pick up from monsters in game. So that finishes off that helmet. And let's do the same property. Let's see if we can add 4 hit point to this arm. So it's you kind of want to manually go and check it each time when you get into the stage, because as you can see, each item has slightly different weights, and you might not be able to do. Yeah, see, I can do 4, but it is slightly. You can see the other one was 480. This is 490. So, first time, perfect. So there we go. That finishes off our armor. I'm going to go ahead and real quick, I'm going to just insure all these things. That is super important with all your gear. Make sure that you're insuring these items because they are, as you can see, pretty valuable. We spent quite a bit of time, money, and resources into making these happen. All right. Now, as you can see, if I pop open my stats, I am, as we said, I'm plus 8 hit points, 41 stamina, 42 mana, all 70s except for energy. I'm 73, which is still pretty good. On a human character, obviously this would be overcapped, but on an elf, you have a cap, the cap of 75. And 10 damage increase, 10 hit point increase, or hit chance increase, and 43 mana cost. So to me, that's a great starter armor set. So now we're going to move on to the rings, or the jewelry. Okay, so regarding our jewelry for this starter Sampire gear, generally speaking, if you plan on doing the optimized Sampire build, you're not going to be able to do that initially because it requires that you have certain amount of skill points that are put onto your rings or your ring and bracelet slots. So we're going to focus more on just general getting our, the ring and bracelet that we're going to use for training. And then later on this character, we'll probably swap them out with other ones. So this is kind of there's a few ways to do this. You can either do it completely from scratch. You can take a blank ring that you buy at a jeweler, or if you're a tinker, you can make one, and you can you can imbue all the properties you want. Now that's kind of expensive, and a lot of times it's not really necessary, especially if you've been playing the game for any period of time. So um, rings and bracelets drop on almost all of the monsters, and sometimes you might overlook certain items that because they don't have all of the max stats. However, if you take a ring like this one, for example, it's a greater magic item. It's not something that you would normally say, oh wow, that's great. But to me, when I see this, I see, hey, that's a ring that already has the maximum that I can imbue damage increase to, which is 25, that already has hit chance increase that I can imbue, which is 15%, and it already has the maximum that I want on dex. So to me, that's like 3 full max imbues right there that I'm essentially getting for free because I picked it up off the ground. Now what's nice about imbuing is that you can take a ring like this and you can look to see what else can I add. So on this set, we're shooting for 25% damage increase on both the ring and the bracelet, 15 hit chance increase on both the ring and bracelet, which will give us 50% damage increase and 30% hit chance increase. And ideally, I'm going to add dex and or something else. No, you can probably add skill to this, and we'll take a look. So we can just look at what's possible to do on this ring. So if I look at let's say stats, and I say I want to add um, intelligence, I could add intelligence at 8, and it's only the 4th property. But notice that it'll put me at 450 450 total weight. So I'm not going to do that. We're going to take a look. What else is useful to a for my so defense chance increase is kind of useful. So we can add this same thing. If I add this at the max, I am going to get full weight. So what if I drop it down to, say, what's this? 13. That's not bad. I still have a little bit of room for I could add 1 or 2 points into intelligence. And then I'm also getting 13% DCI, which isn't my primary goal here, but it's a good option. Let's take a look at resists. Oh, well, that's right. Maybe I can add a little bit of cold to supplement the ones that I was missing. So how much am I missing? Missing 2. So 2% is a really cheap imbue and probably not going to be that big of a deal. So let's go ahead and take this ring. So let me take a, before we do that, so I'll probably use this one. Let me show you some of the other ones. So this one right here is also a greater magic item, but it's one I found, but it has an overcapped dexterity. And also, if you notice, this has the swing speed increase property on it. What's interesting about these rings, and you may hear somebody talk about clean rings or clean jewelry. So what that means is that it has just the property you want, preferably overcapped, and nothing else, or little else, right? So this one has stamina increase, interesting, and dex. So notice that if we take a look here at this ring or this bracelet, I can add dex, which is already there, but I can only add it to 8. It has it to 10, so I'm obviously not going to do that. That's overcapped. But what I don't have is stamina increase. So that is, stamina increase is a property that you can only find on items that are dropped. You cannot imbue it, so this is good. The same is also for swing speed increase. If you look under combat, or any of these, you will not find swing speed increase in here. So what I could do on this ring or this bracelet is if I added damage increase to it, notice that even though it's the 4th property, my weight is only 300, and that's because swing speed increase and stamina, or swing speed increase, is not taking up any weight. It looks like stamina is, but it's only a little bit. Even though I can't imbue it, it's not taking up any weight. Actually, maybe not. Hold on. Yeah, so it is taking it up. So I could imbue 25% damage increase on this and have a pretty good bracelet that then I would also be able to add hit chance increase. So it's saying I need 10 crystal shards in order to do damage increase. Now, crystal shards are kind of a pain to get, and I hope I have them. I do. So I'm going to go ahead and take this ring, or this bracelet, and I'm going to do that because to me that swing speed increase and stamina increase plus an overcap dex, that's just too good to give up. I want that property. Now if you were doing this from scratch, you could create an item that looks exactly like this using imbuing. You would need, of course, crystal shards. You'll need what it takes to get dexterity and and hit chance increase. So I'll show you hit chance increase as well, but crystal shards are what you will need to add damage increase to an item like this. Again, you can do this from scratch, but I'm going to use these items because it kind of gives a little bit of edge. I encourage you to spend a little bit of time, looking at rings and bracelets in monsters and looking for items like these. And just really kind of becoming familiar with what the maximum values are possible. Now, obviously, there are better rings, better bracelets. For example, um, this one is one I already used. I made this one before. It has 10% swing speed increase. I probably added damage increase and hit chance increase. So now it has faster casting, and it's probably not very useful to my Sampire. So this is a good bracelet. It's probably a better bracelet than the one I'm going to make, but I'm going to stick with this one because it has Dex 10, and I want to get as much dexterity and stamina as I can. So this will give me a total of 14 points in stamina plus swing speed increase. So that's a pretty good item. So let's go ahead and finish off this item, and it says we need enchanted essence, which I have, and I need citrine, which I'm going to grab some, and of course crystal shards. The crystal shards you get, I think there's a couple ways to get this, but you can get it from lumberjacking in Malice. I think you lumberjack on the crystals that are growing out of the ground around Luna. That's one way to achieve them. You may be able to get them just by lumberjacking normally, or there might be some other way. But that's how I know. I also get them occasionally I pick them up from the rats inside the Cavern of Discarded. That's probably how I got these. Regardless, you'll need 10 to do a damage increase of 25%. And it looks good, so let's go ahead and do it. Let's just make sure I'm using the right item, because I was poking around a bunch there. Alright. Fail, fail. There we go. So now I've got my nice ring that I started off with 10 dex, which is nice, overcapped, stamina increase, which I can't even imbue, swing speed increase, which I can't even imbue, and then I just added damage increase of 25%. So that's great. Now the only thing this needs is hit chance increase. So let's hopefully we can get hit chance increase at 15%. And of course we can. Now it's saying, now again, if I were smart, I would have looked this up first and I would have done this before the damage increase because this takes relic frags. So I'm probably going to need a bunch because I'm going to fail at 25%. So I'm going to actually grab 100. I won't need that many, but I'll just do that. Amber. I don't know if I already have amber in my pack. I do not. And essence of precision. So I'm going to show you where to get essence of precision. It's in the same dungeon we were at for the essence of order. It's a different spawn. It's very similar. Essence of precision allow you to do the max imbue of hit chance increase. So Stygian Abyss, I will show you where to do that at the end of this session. Let's go ahead and give this a shot. Alright, I got lucky there. So now I've got a bracelet that looks pretty good. It's 10 dex, 4 stam, hit chance, swing speed, and damage increase. All the stuff that my Sampire needs. Alright, I'm going to equip that. Now let's take a look at this ring. Now the ring is pretty much already done. I got 8 dex, 15 hit chance increase, and 25. So let's just put that on and see what we're at. So you can see that I've got now 18 dexterity plus some additional stamina. And if I look, now my damage increases up to 60, which is ideal because I have now 60 damage increase without wielding a weapon, and a GM crafted weapon will come with 40 damage increase, which will put me at exactly 100. I have 40% hit chance increase now, which is great because 30 from my jewelry set and 10 from my armor. And I will get another 5 when I am able to use the swords mastery. So when I can use swordsmanship mastery, which is what I want on this character, I will have a full 45 hit chance increase. So we're looking pretty close to done, but I have some extra room on this ring. Let me add some stuff. Let me see what we can add. I think we talked about maybe adding the resist. Now it seems like a waste of an imbue, but let's see. Or we can either do that or we could do damage increase. Let's actually do both. So if I were to do 13 damage increase, that's tourmaline and relics. Ooh, lucked out. Alright. Now, all I really need to do, let's see if I just add that resist in there. Heck, I could add more. Might as well. So it requires residue and amethyst, which I already have. You know what? I'm not gonna do that. I don't really care so much about that. I'm gonna go ahead and add. Um, let's add intelligence. See how much we can get. I could get up to 4. Let's do that. I think that'll be more valuable than a couple resist points in energy. There we go. So now I have intelligence, dexterity, hit chance, defense chance, damage increase, all on one device. Now, you know, this one doesn't have swing speed increase because, well, I didn't have a good item that was clean enough for that. But if you've got it, I would highly recommend using trying to find a ring and bracelet that has swing speed increase and, you know, some of these other properties already, if not just swing speed increase. That's called a clean item. And then that way you'll have the best possible starting for your Sampire. Now I added DCI just because it's nice to have a little bit. So now our final stats on that are 13 DCI. I've got quite a bit. It's hard to see on this character, so I'm going to go ahead and insure these items. And there we go. So that is the conclusion of our armor for our new Sampire. And next we're going to craft a few good starting weapons. Okay, so on to our initial weapons. Now, weapons with the Sampire, you know, this is something that you're going to have. You're going to use a lot of weapons. So you know, I'm not going to really cover all of the types of weapons. I'm not going to make any slayers or elemental damage types just yet. So this is just kind of for our initial starter training. We're going to use these weapons to train all our skills up to, you know, GM or higher. And with swordsmanship, there's really only two weapons you need to focus on, and the first one would be um, the Radiant Scimitar. So the Radiant Scimitar is a one-handed um, Mondane's Legacy item. It's kind of got like elven originations, kind of like an elven weapon. But the reason why we're going to focus on it is that it does pretty good damage initially, and its primary attack or primary special ability is Whirlwind. So, and it's a fast weapon. So we're going to want to start out with this. Now there are some good weapons that you could get. For example, I think Soul Seeker is a very popular one to start with. Let's see if I can find one here. I know I had one. Anyway, Soul Seeker is here it is. So it is a Radiant Scimitar. So if you have one of these, you might want to just kind of start with it because it's got some pretty good attributes. It's got 60% swing speed increase already and does cold damage. So plus it's Repon Slayer. So this is actually a really great weapon to start with if you have one. But since I said in the beginning of this tutorial, I'm going to use only crafted items. Um, or items that I can craft. I guess with that one exception being this bracelet that had overcapped and swing speed increase, which, you know, easy enough to find. It's not exactly rare. Um, so I'm going to craft a GM Radiant Scimitar. Now, one thing I want to point out is that I'm going to use my Ash 30 here just so I get an exceptional one right off the bat. And you want to make sure that your arms lore is also at 100%. Now the reason why is because GM arms lore gives a little bit extra bonus to crafted items, crafted weapons. Um, that gives a little bit more weight in terms of the imbuing weight as possible. You can get up to 500, and it gives you 40% damage increase just right off the bat. So this is a very simple craft. You just, you know, find it in your list. I don't think it takes a certain recipe. It might. Um, I hope it doesn't. But if it does, you know, should be easy enough to find, or just get somebody to craft one for you. But you need a GM Radiant Scimitar. So I'm going to go ahead and make that out of, oh, I want to make that out of, not Valerite, but iron. So you can experiment with different types. Really, we're just going to do this out of iron because I don't care. I just want it physical damage right now. But later in future episodes, we'll talk about reforging and how to create kind of the better weapons for your Sampire and your end game content. We'll still be using iron, but there will be a reforging process and perhaps an enhancing process. So there's a lot more to weapons than just, hey, let's craft one. But at least initially, that's all we really need. So we're just going to go ahead and craft a plain Radiant Scimitar. And you can see that since I have GM Arms Lore, I get 40% damage increase. And it started off with 72 durability. Now if I look at the weight on this using Imbue, I can see that I get a full 500. Now, if you do not have GM Arms Lore, I believe the weight is 400 or 450. So you want to make sure that you craft these with a GM Smith using GM Arms Lore, and that gives you the best starting position. Now, if you look, simply by wielding this GM crafted weapon, I now have 100% damage increase, which is exactly where I need to be all the time. As we get more advanced into the Sampire, we're going to start transitioning damage increase off of weapons and more into our gear. Unfortunately, that requires certain artifacts and talisman that we don't have and we're not going to have on this clean roll. So we're just going to use GM items for now. That's plenty. So before I move on to the imbuing part of this, I'm going to craft. Eventually, we will also need a double axe. So the double axe, there are different types of axes that you can use that work real well with swordsman Sampire, but the double axe is pretty much going to be your go-to. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to craft a GM exceptional double axe out of iron. And you can see that it also has 40% damage increase added. So there we go. Those are going to be my base weapons. Um, so I'm going to kind of run through these quickly. Before I start imbuing, what I'm going to want to do, especially on weapons, but on pretty much everything, is I'm going to want a powder of fortification all the way up to 255. Your weapons will be pretty much, they'll drain very quickly. After 1 or 2 hunting sessions, you may need to repair them. So you want to start off with as high a base durability as you can. So that's where we're going to use our powder. Fortunately, it's only 2 items. We'll go ahead and get these all the way up to the top. Now the axe we won't be able to use most effectively initially, so we're going to make it now, but we won't really start using the double axe until our swordsmanship on our Sampire is at least 90. And that's because the double axe also has the whirlwind special ability, but it's the secondary ability, and you need at least 90 in your weapon skill in order to use the second ability. Double strike is useful, but generally we want to use this to kill things quickly, and during training that's not really our primary goal. Primary goal is to hit as many things as possible as quickly as possible. So we're going to focus on the Radiant Scimitar at first. So you can see I've got both of those weapons. I think I started with 165 or so of powder fortification. So you can see between the armor and the 2 initial starting weapons, I used about 140, maybe 145 charges of powder fortification. So that's 14 jars essentially that you'll need to get. 14 or 15 jars. That should get you going. All right, so with the imbuing on these, the 2 weapons, they're going to have some of the same properties, but you can see that the Radiant Scimitar actually has a starting swing speed of 2.5 seconds. So that means you can swing it once every 2.5 seconds. The axe, on the other hand, has a starting swing speed of 3.25. Now it's a little bit faster it's not the slowest, but it's pretty close. So 3.25 is kind of slow. So on the axe, we're definitely going to have to add swing speed increase. But on the Radiant Scimitar, we're not. So that's going to give us an extra property. It's also important to point out the damage increase that comes from a GM weapon actually adds 1 property. So both of these items already have 1 imbued property with imbued weight implied. So as you'll see when we get more into advanced Sampire gear in a future episode, we'll be using techniques to remove damage increase entirely from a GM weapon so that we start with a completely clean slate so we can have all 5 properties that we want. But we're not going to do that on this initial setup. So with the Radiant Scimitar, there's a couple things you want to add. The one that I like to do on my initial training weapon is hit lightning first. 1, it uses relic frags, and 2, it actually it doesn't do just additional damage. It actually increases your chance to hit, and there are certain hit abilities on weapons that will proc the Sampire's ability to heal as well as gain skill. So I've noticed that if I add hit lightning at 44%, which is, I'm not going to use any special. I could use Essence of Passion and get it up to 50, but I'm not going to. We're going to do this cheap. I'm going to use Relic Frags and Amethysts. And where's my amethysts? Here we go. Now I'm just going to double check, make sure that these are max durability before I imbue. And I'm going to add just 44% hit lightning. Done. Okay. So let's see what else I can add to my Radiant Scimitar. So one of the other things I'm going to want is definitely Mana Leech. So Mana Leech I want to get up as far as I can. Really, Void Orbs they're not hard to get, but I'm not going to, I don't want to say wait, I don't have enough right now anyway. So I'm going to take these down to just the minimum or the maximum I can have before I need Void Orbs. So that's 55%. It is a simple imbue, it is magical residue and sapphire, so let's go ahead and add those. Oh, I can't hold any more weight. And sapphire. Probably not. Let me actually go ahead. I can salvage these now. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and add 55% of hit mana leech. Now what hit mana leech does is, of course, is exactly as it says. Every time you hit, there's 55% chance that you will leech some of that damage back as mana to you. So with a whirlwind weapon like the Radiant Scimitar, we are going to be hitting a lot of enemies at the same time, and there's a lot of opportunity for hit mana leech to proc. The end result will be that we're, staying full on our mana, hopefully, and we're also hitting lightning and we're gaining lots. So we're also going to add another leech property, which is hit stamina leech. Now sometimes people don't add these, especially when you get a more advanced character where you can avoid stamina leech in general. But I like to pretty much keep it on most of my items because um, if your stamina is low, you're not swinging. If you're not swinging, you're dying. That's basically the rule with Sampire. So if you're not swinging and you're not hitting, then you're going to die. So stamina leech, make sure it does its best to make sure that my stamina is always max. I always want to try to keep it max as much as possible. When you get hit with spells or melee combat, especially with like larger hits, it will reduce your stamina quite a bit. Now we're mitigating that a little bit by using some plate armor, um, and that will help somewhat. But we are using a few pieces of Woodland, so it doesn't have very good stamina reduction or stamina hit reduction. So we're gonna need stamina leech. So it requires residue and diamonds to do it at 44. All right. Now one thing I want to point out is that the maximum leech value of a weapon that you can craft or imbue is directly correlated to how fast the weapon is. Now this is a mechanism that, you know, EA or Broadsword or whoever, the makers of UO, put in to kind of to make it so if you've got a really fast weapon, then then the leech values are a little bit less in terms of percentages. But in the end, it all really kind of works out because you're swinging it faster and they're hopefully hitting more often. So, the faster your weapon, then the less leeches you can imbue. So by default, the max I think on mana leech is like 60 something with a radiant scimitar, and it's like 50 something for stamina leech. If this were a slower weapon, I could probably put those up to 60 or 80. And you'll see that with the double axe, which is slower. So that's 4 properties, including damage increase. So we have room for one more. And, I'm going to add hit lower defense. Now I can't add it to its max, but I'm going to get as close to as I can. Now hit lower defense is a very useful property to have, especially with a Sampire. Since we don't have any on our headwear, which is normally where I would put, at least something, we're going to add it on our weapon. This is our good training weapon. This will allow us to If we are fighting something that's a little bit harder, it will lower its defense so that we can hit it more regularly. Now this uses Enchanted Essence and Tourmaline. So we're going to have to put back our sapphires here and grab some Tourmaline. Now I have a pretty low chance, 20%, 22% chance of succeeding on this, so I'm going to fail a few times, I'm sure. So 42% hit lower defense. Ooh. There we go. Excellent. So to me, this is a great starter Sampire blade. So this is the weapon we're going to be using from, 0 to at least 90. It's fast. It's got all the leeches we need. It's got hit lightning. It's got hit lower defense, and it's got the damage increase that we need. So this is a great first weapon. You can argue maybe you start with a little bit faster, like a butcher's knife or something, so that you're swinging even faster than this. But with our stamina being where it's at, or where it's going to start out because of our gear, and the dex adds that we've added already, once our dex raises to anything above 120 or so, we're going to be swinging this thing as fast as possible. So we'll be good. I think you only need 140 stam to swing a Radiant Scimitar as fast as possible. So we'll be well over that by the time we get going with seriously training our Sampire. So the next one we're going to do is the double axe. Now the double axe is a little bit different in that we will need to add swing speed increase to make this really an effective weapon. So to do that, in fact, I'm going to do that first. So swing speed increase is under combat, and you can only apply this to weapons. As you saw, we couldn't add it to jewelry or anything else. It's only to weapons. And the max you can imbue swing speed increase to is 30%. Now there are ways to get this higher using reforging, but we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is focus on just what we can make right here in our shop. And it's saying it takes 5 relic frags, which I'm going to just bring over 5. Tourmaline, which I already have, and Essence of Control. Now, Essence of Control is another imbuing reg that you're going to get out of the Stygian Abyss, when I will show you where to get that at the end of this session. You do it by fighting the enslaved goblins, and they will drop the Essence of Control. Actually, the enslaved goblins is a great place to go train your Sampire once you reach 80 or 90 in your weapons ability. But we're not going to start there. I'm going to have to show you how to farm those using a different character. But you will need 10 in order to do a max swing speed increase. Now, we want to do this max because we will need swing speed increase in order to use this double axe effectively. In fact, if we have 180 stam and 30 swing speed increase here, there's going to be 3 on our ring. I think the fastest we'll be able to swing this is 1.5 seconds. So it's not even as fast as you can go. You either need to have more stam, like a 200, or way more swing speed increase in order to make that happen. But for our training purposes, this is good. Alright, so Relic Frag, Tourmaline, Essence of Control. Let's go ahead and get her done. Alright. So now we're going to imbue many of the same properties onto this, but since it already has 2 properties, swing speed increase, damage increase, we're only going to add, we're going to add also hit lightning. I'm not going to do this max. I'm going to do it also at 44%. Need some relic frags. I already have the amethyst. Let me move my ingots back. And where's my amethyst? There it is. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to add both hit mana leech You notice 62% is as high as I can go with this axe now that it has swing speed increase. Now if I didn't have swing speed increase, I actually would have been able to put it higher. But you know, 55% is pretty good. We don't really need more than that. We're going to go ahead and say get some sapphires. I plan on failing this a couple times. So with the max imbues like this, like I said, you will burn through gems. You can go off to the Queen's Forge if you want a little bit of a bonus, but I just burn through the gems. All right, so max mana, and the last one we want to add is Stamina Leech. Now this is going to be a pretty tight imbue, 19%. And of course, I keep making the same mistake. Diamonds are more expensive, and so I'm going to burn through them, but hopefully I'll get lucky here. I did. Awesome. All right, so that's my weapon. So now you can see with the double axe, I have 30%. My total swing speed increase is 35. My damage increase is, of course, 100%. And that's it for my Sampire initial gear. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to farm both Essence of Control and Essence of Precision. I'm going to at least show you where those are on the map and how to farm those. And then my gear is ready for my Sampire. All right, hopefully this has been beneficial to you guys. And next episode, we're going to be starting on combat training. Okay, so the Essence of Precision that you need for hit chance increase can be found in the Abyss at a mini champ called the Crimson Veins. So you get there through this cave entrance in Termer. It's way down here at the bottom of the map. It's called the Tomb of Kings. So you just go in here, you say the word Ord on the left fire, and you can just run through. Ignore all this stuff. And you stay here for a second, and the bridge should appear. Now you have to do, of course, the Abyss quest or the Stygian Abyss quest. The fastest one to do is called Sacred Quest. You can look it up online. You basically answer a few trivia questions based on this book that you have to read. So you start up here in the corner, and the actual Crimson Vein spawn is right here. You just run down through. I will say that it can get pretty difficult. The fire demons spawn here, the lava elementals, and there's also Ifrit. So Demon Slayer and Elemental Slayer, but you have to know when to switch. These guys drop the essence of precision, which is what you'll probably want to get at least. Ultimately, you'll come here to train later, but you'll want to get a bunch of this stuff. So here it is. All of the mobs in this area can drop them, and it's used for hit chance increase. All right. So to get the Essence of Control, you actually want to go to the other side of the Abyss. So the best can come in through the Volcano dungeon. I'll show you how to get there, in case you haven't been there. You run down through here, and there's a secret door. There's another secret door. run over here and walk through this teleporter, and it'll put you right in front of the Abyss, or the Stingent Abyss entrance. So you just run down here. Okay, so actually the fastest way is to go up and around, but you want to watch out because you don't want to get hit by, oh, I guess you cannot run around there. Alright, so we're going to run through this spawn. And it should be right here. So this is the Enslaved Goblin mini champ spawn, and this is where the Essence of Control will drop. Now these guys are repawned. They're a great place to train from your 90s to all the way up to 100s. They're pretty easy to kill, and they're great for combat training. But they also drop the Essence of Control. So let's see if we can get one to drop. Now this is a great place to take your pets as well. So if you don't have any sort of melee character, you can bring mages down here. You can cast EVs or Rising Colossus if you have a mystic, or you can bring a pet, and they do well here as well. So anyway, the essence look like this. It's a bright blue. You'll need Essence of Control for the swing speed increase we did on the double axes. So you'll probably need a lot of this stuff in the end if you want to make a whole full set of Slayer weapons. So you might as well start collecting it now. Alright, hopefully that's helpful.